So as you can probably tell, we're somewhere in the middle on that, right?
Yeah, I think cyber awareness training is something that is, vital for any organization, because if you're not
necessary.
telling your people what is expected of them, how should they know what's expected of them?
Exactly right. Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
Welcome to yet another Cyber Sitrep.
That's right. It's the Cyber Sitrep, everybody. Today we're going to be talking to you about cyber awareness training. And is it really helping?
Man, yeah. What a loaded topic, right?
Yeah. I mean, to our listeners out there, are you getting cyber training? Do you get so much cyber training that you're like, why am I getting more cyber training?
Right. Is it coming out your ears? Are you sick of hearing about cybersecurity training?
Exactly. Or are you like cyber training? I got that when I got hired, and then I've never heard about it again.
Exactly. Like, what's that? I think I've heard that topic before.
It was in my user manual, employee manual.
Right.
And there was a paragraph that said, don't do bad things.
Like we say back in Nam. Right?
That's right. Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, back in the Ashaw Valley, right?
Exactly.
We were trained on that. So as you can probably tell, we're somewhere in the middle on that, right?
Yeah, I think cyber awareness training is something that is, vital for any organization, because if you're not
necessary.
telling your people what is expected of them, how should they know what's expected of them?
Exactly, right. Yeah.
But then again, if you're telling them what's expected of them every 30 seconds,
right,
they're going to grow bored of that topic.
You can't hold someone accountable out of ignorance, right? If you haven't provided them the training they need to avoid, like we had done previously, we've done something on phishing, right? How to, detect phishing, how to defend against it. And if you've trained your people on that and they repeatedly fall prey to phishing, then...
Right. You can say you've been taught, but also we have to say if you taught them about phishing in 1995...
Exactly.
They probably have different phishing techniques now.
Absolutely.
And
different
we
vectors.
Have to maintain that currency and that training.
Yes.
I laugh because I think the DoD training is exactly the same as when I left. And I've been retired almost 15 years. Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of doing NOAA provided training, and they've recently updated theirs.
That's good.
It was very nice. But you're probably right.
We didn't learn from it. I learned from it the first 2 times, and then it was like, I had this last year.
Right. And I think, that kind of goes with our theme of it's a great starting point, right?
You need
for training. You got to have it. But, based on your organization and what you guys do, what your business walk is, you need to tailor that, right, to your environment to reflect what's really important to your organization. Right?
Yeah, if you're doing a death by PowerPoint once a year and it's the same PowerPoint, or you change 1 or 2 slides,
exactly. You're doing it wrong.
Your users are not paying attention. They're like,
not
I have to
vested.
sit here and take this training.
Exactly. And it's billable hours, so I'm good, but it's a waste of their time, right?
Exactly. And so we recommend training, more frequently, but shorter. So it's not a whole hour of training that the person is stuck in a room listening to someone, but it's 5-10 minute trainings, comes to their email. They can do it when they're just, taking a rest, and need a break from their regular job. Right.
And, Mike, you and I were talking right before we started recording is that when it comes to the training that I just lost my train of thought there.
Having someone come in, you were saying?
Well, yeah, you can have someone come in to do that for you if you don't have the skill set in-house, right? That can tailor to your environment, and there's really affordable options out there.
Yep.
I know you guys have
a
bench of that, and there's other vendors out there that do it as well. So there's no reason not to do it in your environment because at the end of the day, you want to keep your people engaged, right?
Right, and I think you were mentioning something about if you do weekly meetings with your team, having someone just volunteer to.
Yeah, it reinforces what you're saying. We talked about in another Sitrep the difference between compliance and security.
Exactly.
Right? And so we know training is a requirement, and so you could just check that box and do like Mike's talking about and have that death by PowerPoint once a year, and you're compliant, right? You've provided training.
My people are trained.
But you really haven't, right?
No.
And so we want to go more toward that real security posture where we augment that. And once again, Mike, you had mentioned, maybe have that annual event, but then have targeted little small small micro training opportunities.
Exactly.
One thing we found a lot of success in is with our team is we'll pick someone for a week. We usually do a tag up meeting once a day or at least once or twice a week. And as part of that, we'll pick whoever volunteers, or if they don't, they get voluntold, right? Another military term.
That's
there.
right.
And they get to pick a topic of their choice that's related to security in some way, shape, or form. And they get to brief the team on that, whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. You don't want it to be very long, right? Because you got a lot of stuff to do. But that does multiple things for us. One, it may make you aware of stuff that you weren't visible to, like the Macy's incident. I wasn't even aware of that, so thank you for that. And two, you're getting buy-in from your employees, right? Your teammates on that they're actually researching that, getting something out of that, and it makes your posture better overall. It's that whole point of actually implementing and practicing what you preach, and then you also find out what your people are interested in, so you can use that as a target mechanism or
what
a tailoring
about.
mechanism. Right, exactly, because it may be completely different from what you've got on your mind, and that's totally all right.
You're like, I'm worried about phishing, and they're like, I'm worried about the Russians breaking in and stealing my data.
Or I'm worried about these unknown drones that are flying all over. You know, you name it, right? I know. I just oh man, I just opened up.
You just pulled off that Band-Aid. Now we're going to have to talk about drones.
Right. And the other thing where I'm going with this is that this also demonstrates your commitment to your culture, right?
Exactly.
And this has to be driven top down. This isn't a bottom up scenario, right?
We always recommend that everyone who's hiring us, usually the C-suite or whatever, the management, don't just say it's user training and to your team. You're a user. You're on the network, so everyone needs to do it. Yeah. And if it's, as you say, if it's a topic of a conversation, if the CEO goes at that tag up meeting says, "Did you all? Can you believe that training we just did?" Or
exactly,
do people fall for that kind of phishing? And
and don't delegate this. Right, this is something I believe is important enough that you need to be there. I don't care what your rank or title is.
Exactly.
If it's your organization, you need to be there and represent.
Yep,
right?
and we've found that does bring in more of that user buy-in because the senior leadership is bought in and they're like, no, this is serious. I'm taking it seriously. I could fall victim. Yeah. We have a client and they have this wall of shame and they do manufacturing. So it's like, a mis-solder or a thing. And so they highlight it and say, hey, this was me rushing. This was it.
Exactly.
On that wall is a CEO email that he fell for a phishing in a frame, and he's like, there's me.
And once again, everybody, this reinforces we're not into this for shaming. That's not the point of this at all, right? It's to increase your security posture, make you more secure, more resilient, right? All the
it's not their wall of shame, it's their wall of mistakes, but they look at mistakes as a stepping ground to doing it better next time.
Absolutely, right.
So that's all
learn a lesson
doing.
and move on, right?
Exactly.
So as far as training resources out there, Mike, I know on the free side, once again, depending on where you're at in the world, there's an excellent government-focused training.
That's right.
It's called the DISA Cyber Awareness Challenge Training, and DISA is the Defense Information Systems Agency. The website is public.cyber.mil, and that training is free for anybody. Yep. And once again, I don't know if you'll have any issues hitting it for outside continental United States. If you do, let us know.
So what a VPN is for.
Well, exactly. I'm glad you said it, not me. There are ways to get that training, and it's excellent training. So it has general security awareness training. It does, once again, it has a government flavor to it. So there are some terms and stuff in there that if you're not hardcore government, you may have to do a lot of lookup on things.
That's right.
But that training is very good at, it has a glossary, has an acronym list, all that great stuff. And it also has an insider threat awareness module in there as well, which we talked about in another Sitrep.
That's right.
For how to recognize those indicators of compromise for our personnel, right?
And the Small Business Administration has some training.
Yeah, absolutely.
CISA has some training.
Right.
So there's lots of free training out there.
What about paid training?
I was going to say, and then like organizations like ours, but there's Know Before, Symbol Security. There's tons of these.
Love you guys. You're awesome.
These are just organizations that have the training built in.
Yes.
And why, if you can afford it, if it's something your company can afford, it's typically not super expensive, but it tracks your training. That's one of the key things. So instead of you having to do the free training and tracking it so you can prove, hey, we've done this training.
Exactly.
It'll let you know, hey, Eric hasn't logged on.
Past due. Yeah,
he's past due in that training, and you can just send a reminder.
It's happened before, yeah.
Yeah, and then you know who's been trained.
Right.
And a lot of times they gamify it, so there can be leaderboards, like who's the best in training, which means you did your training quicker than everyone else. You didn't fall for any phishing tests.
Nice.
And so you can get a scoreboard, and and we found that does work regardless of that some people in companies, especially smaller organizations, they're like, man, Eric is beating me? No way Eric's going to beat me.
I was going to say more carrot than stick, right?
Yeah.
I'm more of a stick person myself.
They're like, I want to win,
Well, that's cool. Right on. No, that's great. Absolutely. And once again, you're more familiar with it than I am, but it appears that there's multiple tiers and price points, and you can get in really, really affordably at a lower level. And then as you guys ramp up and you need, targeted frequency, then you can get into those bigger plans, right?
Exactly.
All very, very good information out there.
And it's roughly, I mean, you could most of the training is $4 or under per user per month.
Yeah, fairly affordable,
so
right?
So that's not too bad.
So at a minimum, use a free resource, right?
Exactly.
Get that. Once again, one critical thing you alluded to, but especially if you have a requirement for this, is completion, proof of completion. The DISA, I know the DISA does, has a proof of completion certificate that generates as a PDF, so you keep that on file as your artifact to say, yep, I did my training on this date, and we're good to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have critical evidence of the completion of everybody.
And, even if you don't have a government requirement for that, think about your cybersecurity insurance as well, right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
You must have read my mind. I was
did
thinking
once in a row.
For even those folks who don't have the compliance,
right,
you're probably going to need insurance. And should something go awry, one of the things you can prove due diligence is, hey, I'm training my people, and they're being trained more than just the death by PowerPoint. Yeah, I've done X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. So you got to do it, right? I think, once again, so is it helping? I guess that was your core question.
Yeah, and
let's close this up. What do you think?
I think overall, cyber awareness training is needed. So it does help, but I think it only helps if you do it in a way that people can respond and be positive to. If it's that death by PowerPoint or the once a year or the thing they have to be dragged to, you're not really getting your message across. If you can make it fun, if you can make it infrequent or frequent, but short, so that way it's not taking up a lot of time, and then keep it current. So that it's not the same. I'm not getting that same message again and again. It's a different video. It's a different little training thing.
Yeah.
And then it helps you keep it current too. So, hey, we saw that Macy's had an insider threat. So guess what, everybody?
Exactly.
We're going to do an insider threat. Everyone look out the window now and look for the Lambo, right? We're going to keep looking and keep that training going.
One of these days, I'm going to see you driving a Lambo, and then I'm going to have a really bad crisis of faith.
No, this is the problem.
Did you really do that well, or did you sell out? What happened there?
When I was a young dumb troop, I did buy a Porsche 944.
Oh, nice.
And I found out that I could afford the car, but I couldn't afford the car.
Exactly.
I could buy it, but then I couldn't keep it up.
Right. You couldn't afford to drive it.
And now, if I can get to afford a good car, I can't get in it because I'm too broken. So if I bought a Lambo, you would see me in it, and I would be living there because I could never get out of it again.
They do have an SUV with your name on it, the Urus, right? I mean, that's a Lambo.
But I can't.
No, I couldn't. It's a bridge too far.
Even with the Porsche, I can't buy the Cayenne because I'm like,
I hear you, Ben.
It's my mom's car.
I haven't given up on that dream yet myself, but maybe in a few more years we'll see.
I mean, if we can eventually afford it, I just know I'd never be able to get my butt out of it. So
gotcha. So once again, in summary, everybody, we think it is definitely helping, but it's qualified, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to do more than the basics to make this really work in your environment. Put a little bit of effort into it. It's for your business
and comment on this pod and let us know what you think of your training. Hey, ours is great, and we get it once a quarter.
Yeah, show off your technique, right? Yeah, if you're doing something really novel and unique and that we totally missed, please let us know, because we love to spread the love and share the wealth with the community, right? And let them know, hey, man, there's a really cool way of doing training here that we'd never heard of before.
We've had when we talk about gamification, there was one where I know a company is giving like gift cards to people who report the most fish in a month.
Yeah, incentive. Yeah, that now you're getting my attention, right? Yeah. When you put a monetary reward on something, now all of a sudden that's my speed.
I think the only downside was people reporting every email as fish because they wanted the gift card. They weren't getting any work done.
See, and once again, people are just too damn clever, right? They're going to game the system.
I will win. But then they had to clarify it had to be an actual
legitimate phishing email.
Yep. You can't just shoot everything and hope that you win. So
that's funny.
But yeah, I think this awareness training will help, number one, with the phishing, right? Because that's their number one threat. We talked about phishing. But you have to have your people aware. And frequent, short training is my recommendation. But I think there's lots of different methods. And,
we realize that not everybody's gifted to be a trainer or has the will. That's all right. If you got to outsource it. Just get it done.
Exactly. And like I say, it's not expensive. So
no, not at all. No excuse not to. All right. Close us out, Mike.
So again, we're coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio here at the Next Us, which is a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. They help us out a lot. We appreciate being here. And with that, we want you to follow, give us comments on this, on your training, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.